Another fast episode. Boy.
Well, fuck. I could have not done the guy who pretended he's going to kill
Yeah,
himself.
you could have. You could have not.
But I hated that guy.
Deadline.
Here we are, Abe, Cast Iron Brains, a podcast that just this afternoon discovered that catturd has been referenced in the New York Times 7 times. My name is Bob, sitting across the way from my good friend and co-host. That's Abe. How you doing tonight, Abe?
Doing well, Bob.
Yeah, here we are. Lori's here too. How you doing tonight, Lori?
I know of catturd. That's my world.
You know of catturd, huh? You are a present on right-wing reactionary Twitter, are you?
No.
Lori giving away the game here.
I
You're
know,
not
I don't
supposed to tell
follow.
the people that you are active on right-wing reactionary troll Twitter.
It's the 3-year Letterman adjacent.
I wouldn't say adjacent. Similar level of troll, but
That's how I know of
much
it.
less. Like, you don't expect that the person running the catturd2 account is actually secretly a decent or
Yeah, I don't know. I don't follow
good
it.
human being. 3-year
not
Letterman, you could presuppose that the person behind that account is not like automatically a total dipshit.
I'm not familiar with this catturd person, but were they mentioned because they were like nominated for some important post or something? Or
No, I don't even remember why, but I had decided to check on, because I think somebody mentioned, I was reading some article and somebody mentioned something incredibly stupid, and I was trying to think of like what incredibly stupid thing has also been mentioned in the New York Times multiple times, almost certainly. And the first thing that popped into mind was, how many times do I think that catturd shows up in the New York Times archives? And the answer, I think it's 6 or 7. And it's largely because Elon Musk follows catturd, and therefore he only follows like 50 accounts or something, or at the time of these articles were being written, he only followed a small number of accounts. And then, so catturd becomes part of the national discourse somehow. I remember one controversy around saying your catturd too, which was that he posted in an apparent break with what is mostly just, as I said, sort of right-wing reactionary trolling. He posted seemingly sincerely about how he just keeps running over his dogs, or like he keeps having to
what?
like he just keeps having bad luck where he's always running over his dogs. And he was very torn up about the fact that like he'd murdered with his truck his 3rd or 4th dog in just a couple of years, and like how painful that was, and then how heartless and cruel the internet was and the leftists were for dumping on him for constantly vehicular homiciding his dogs.
Wait a minute.
He was all torn up about it. I could be making up like 90%. Look, fact check me, I guess. But this is my recollection of it. This is my truth.
It's impossible to accidentally run over your dogs on numerous occasions. Like, that's not possible. Like, how do you make that mistake over and over and over again?
I don't know.
And then admit it, like Kristi Noem style.
Kristi Noem just out here shooting dogs. Speaking of, I saw the clip of Kristi Noem on South Park. I didn't watch the episode, but I watched the 2-minute clip that featured Kristi Noem. Not very nice.
No.
But also right up my alley and quite wonderful in terms of their take on Kristi Noem.
It was a recurring gag, like she would just shoot any dog on sight.
Shoot the dog, and then like her face would start to melt, and they would bring in the NASCAR pit crew experts and make the NASCAR pit crew sound effects to jack her face back up into respectability.
Right.
Pretty good stuff. Abe, you appear in heaven. Like you're basically angelic because of how bright this situation is here.
It's much brighter on the video than it is like here in person. This place feels normal, but like you're right, it just seems a lot brighter than my other place. I'm still slowly putting things together at this new apartment. I thought I would have a moment over the weekend to grab some lighting, but I did not. So I will do it this upcoming weekend.
Yeah,
Soon it will.
I'm
look,
not complaining.
more
It's just
cozy.
the effect here is very.
Yeah.
It's
Very shiny
stark.
head, yes.
Yes. You have a good weekend? That sounds like you must have been busy if you couldn't even stop for some lighting fixtures.
Yes, one of my friends they stayed over. It was like his birthday or something. Even though we're old. He's like, hey, let's I live
Just a couple of dudes in their mid-40s having a sleepover for a birthday. It's perfectly normal.
That's totally normal. And so I was doing a little hosting for a while, and then we went to some wine festival that they were taking a part in. They snuck me in, totally under the table.
Why do you have to
totally
be
illegal.
snuck into a wine? You're of
Apparently,
age?
it was a ticketed event, but since they were working there, they're like, just come in, one of those things.
Gotcha.
And the great thing about, I hate wine, I don't drink it, but usually when there's like a wine event, they have like one table, one booth for the degenerate beer drinkers, right? And at this event, the lines were just ridiculously long for the wine and almost empty for the beer. And that created this situation to where, like, on demand, if you're into beer, it's a great counter-programming. I did not realize this. Maybe in the future I will pay for a ticket, to
you
go to
go.
one of these things. Because,
Usually at these like wine tasting places or what have you, there's also a good selection of like if you don't do wine, sometimes people do like a hard cider.
yes,
Might be some of those options available to you.
right. So I did some of that, and then I got this weird email from this new place, this apartment complex. I wasn't aware that there were a lot of coyotes around, but apparently a neighbor's dog had a rough outing with a coyote, and they are no more. And so they were just like, heartbreaking news. Somebody's dog is dead. Keep an eye on coyotes. And where I'm situated, I'm facing the dog area where people are just, like they bring their dogs just to kind of walk them. It's like the quiet part of the complex. And so I was like, man, I could have saw some action, overnight. But I don't know when this happened. But apparently some coyote came and took some small dog.
This is the first scene of the movie. First, you get this email, right? It's like, everybody watch out for the coyote, which has been viciously attacking our apartment complex's dogs. That ends with you having to fight a werewolf. I want you to be aware of that. That's where this is going. And as the new guy in the apartment complex, be prepared to come under immediate suspicion of being the werewolf.
That's right. Everything was going great until you showed up, and then things just went.
I think we had a full moon.
We had the
last couple
crazy
nights.
moon.
Big old moon. Good werewolf moon.
And it was probably a werewolf you were after.
Yeah, well, hopefully I don't have any pets, so
makes you number one suspect here. Werewolves don't keep pets, obviously.
I'm sure I have a pretty airtight alibi for whenever this happens.
Yeah, my buddy was here for his birthday. That's my alibi.
Well,
anyway, sounds like a pretty good time.
Yeah, good times overall. I'm looking forward to doing nothing this upcoming weekend, though. The last month have been either doing something, and now
you got to do nothing before all of the football starts.
Yes,
because then you'll be extremely busy with a whole different sort of nothing.
That's true.
All right, let's try not to drag things out too much tonight. We will be in and out of here nice and quick. Do our music program at the end as well, and be on our way. We are on the verge of having to record 3 or 4 nights a week. Anyway, with the cast iron balls about to have to kick back into high gear.
We have to do our draft next week.
We're going to do a special draft of some sort where I think the plan is for us to pick like a handful. I don't know. How many rounds will we do?
No. We'll figure out how many rounds. We're going to each pick one quarterback from each conference and one group of 5 quarterbacks. 5 quarterbacks.
So we're drafting 5 quarterbacks.
Yeah, 15
For
people.
a total of 15 quarterbacks that we will follow through the year and attempt to accumulate the most fantasy points. Lori's going to have a spreadsheet. It's going to be fine.
It will. It'll be good.
And also, Lori's like, and we could do that instead of making stupid picks of games. And I said, No, we can do that in addition to making stupid picks of games.
I just don't like picking.
We will always pick games.
Yeah, because once, by the way, so once we make our selections for quarterbacks, there's no more thinking, right? It's just we're following
There's no
them
more
along.
thinking. There's no
Okay.
more. There's just hope.
No,
There's hoping.
we won't have to start somebody versus sit somebody.
No,
Yeah.
and you'll have the quarterback room. So if the guy gets hurt, you get the backup.
Okay.
Ah, no, that's stupid.
It's my game. I'm gonna be the one doing the points. So
So you just have that team's quarterback as the season goes on?
yes, because you can game that if you want into like maybe you have a team that has two good quarterbacks, and as they say, if you have none, you have two or whatever.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Anyway, I just think it would suck so much if a fifth or 2/5 of your team got hurt. Like we have too few people to allow.
Well, that's why you do like a secondary backup draft.
No, that's too much thinking.
and then that's
No,
your
I've
bench
solved the
from which you
problem.
can draw.
No, the problem is solved when you just say if your guy gets
I
hurt.
disagree. I think we should have a 7-round draft.
No,
we start
this
5.
sucks now.
We start 5 every week.
No,
Let me hash this out with my buddy Brian. We will come up with
No.
like 4,700
you and Brian can do a different thing.
different
The
rules.
three of us are going to do my thing.
All right. So who's going to pick Lenora Sellers in the first round?
We don't know who's going to pick who. Don't nobody say anything. It's
Yeah,
a different
nobody
episode.
say anything. I mean, I
Talk
don't even
about
know.
the sad
right
news.
in the first, whoever gets that first overall pick. South Kakalaki's quarterback room.
I trust that my talent evaluation is different from yours.
In terms of quarterbacks, yeah, almost certainly. No,
Oh, yeah.
That's fair to say.
And you know my track record when it comes to quarterbacks.
Yeah. I mean, the best part of this will be getting to hear how much Abe hates all
Alabama
5 of his
just
quarterbacks.
now announced Ty Simpson as their starter.
I don't know who that is.
Well, he's their
You
quarterback.
could have made up those words. That's how
You have
much attention I have paid to college football. I will be the host of a college football podcast that starts recording next week and records probably twice a week. I will pretend to know things far more than I actually do. And
Yeah,
I have,
but no,
I have
the
paid
joke is
zero attention to college football.
None of them know anything.
Since
That's the best
January 20th or so.
James Harden and others, and this probably happens in other sports also, but I just know basketball. James Harden would just work his way into shape through the regular season. He wouldn't come to the regular season in shape.
right.
And so he just figured it out as he went. And it seems
Who
like
else
that's the
famously would show up fat to training
I
camp?
mean, like
Or-
Shaq was a little out of
yeah,
shape.
Shaq
you know.
would show up fat,
Yeah.
but not just fat. There's baseball players who would famously show up fat after the season.
That's right.
Talk about
but
the news.
What's happening here is that Laurie is showing up, as far as information-wise, in great shape when it comes to this, relative to us. Because I'm like you, Bob. I know very little of this upcoming college football season between now and the next recording. I'm going to start to read, or I'm going to ask the robot, like, what the fuck's going on? Besides the South Carolina quarterback, who else is good? And then come up with a system. But, like, I haven't kept up with the offseason as much as I have in years past.
And it's arguably like more important than ever to keep up with the offseason because it's not like there's any continuity from year to year in terms of
Hope one of you drafts Nico.
the talent.
That's what I hope.
Yeah, what happened to Nico? Did he get?
Yeah. Oh
I know he's not at Tennessee anymore.
no,
Yeah,
he's
who picked
not.
him up? Like UCLA
We
or
even
something?
talked about this. Yes, UCLA and the UCLA quarterback who had transferred from App State went to Tennessee. QB swap.
I don't know why you're so entertained by QB swap.
It's
just
QB
as a
swap.
concept. It's very lame. Speaking of CNBC headline, as I was just going upstairs, grab a glass of water, and it's popped up on my phone. ESPN and Fox to bundle upcoming streaming services for $39.99 a month. ESPN and Fox plan to offer their upcoming direct-to-consumer streaming services as a bundle beginning in October. Both Disney's ESPN, the app shares the same name as the TV network, and Fox's Fox One will launch on August 21st before the start of the college football and NFL seasons, and the bundles will be available on October 2nd, cost $40 a month. Separately, Fox One and ESPN cost $19.99 and $20.99 per month, respectively.
And so as it stands, whatever service that you have, so if you have YouTube TV and you already get those channels, you're not impacted. Is that correct?
You would have no, as far as I can tell. I mean, I think ESPN's going to try to throw in some like bonus content on top of whatever the normal slate, like because you're going to get ESPN and ESPN2 and SEC on ESPN and a bunch of those like ESPN Plus games or whatever that they don't otherwise show on cable, but you can watch if you have a cable subscription by logging in online or what have you.
Right.
Fox One appears to not be offering any additional stuff. It's just like whatever over-the-air Fox stuff there is.
What is Fox One? I thought it was Fox Sports One or FS1.
This is a new. It's a new product entirely. It's Fox One.
So these are the two biggest competitors in the sports live TV stuff, like as far as cable goes, right? And so like they're partnering up, and there was like another story where ESPN is in bed with the NFL, where there's like a 10% stake ownership of ESPN by the NFL, and now they're going to show Sunday Ticket on ESPN. I think that kicks off like next year, but it seems like ESPN seems to be partnering with either a sports league and their number one rivals. It's an interesting strategy that they're pursuing. Are they eventually going to make it so to where if you want live sports, which they have so many different deals, like you have to basically go to ESPN?
Well, it seemingly is going to make it much easier for ESPN the next time that their contract with YouTube TV or Charter or Comcast or whoever, next time those carriage rate fights come into play, they can be like, well, if you're not going to give us an extra $4 a month per subscriber, we just won't put our shit on your network, and
right.
Our customers are so loyal that they'll just pay us for the privilege of streaming direct to them. And I think that they're probably right. That if YouTube TV and like if Google and ESPN got into a fight right before college football season as this new network was planning to launch, or this new bundling option was planning to launch, we would stop paying YouTube TV and instead pay for this, because seemingly like the main thing that we get out of our cable package at this point is live sports anyway. Like I watch my news programs on the weekends, but that can be, I mean, I get them as podcasts also. So like that can be easily circumvented. I can't watch Maggie Brennan on my podcast, but I could find the clips online if I needed to. Really, I just tune in to see what she's wearing, and then I mostly just read the paper while I listen to her anyway. So what difference does it make?
Actually, you know, that is a good point. I wonder, because you hear of so many stories of people where, like, I only have cable because of the live sports. Like, if it weren't for the live sports, I would not have the need for all of these other channels. And so now if you have a standalone $40 deal, so like if you're like, okay, I'm a college football fan, so from August until January, I'll pay the $40, and then I won't pay anything else the rest of the year.
Or even maybe you pick YouTube TV back up the rest of the year because you don't have anything else going. You're more likely to turn on and just channel surf or what have you on YouTube TV. And like, but during football season, like, because the idea that we would turn the TV on and watch non-football content because we just, like, if the TV's on, it's because we're watching football during football season. And like the idea that we would then seek out other stuff to watch on non-ESPN, non-sports channels seems kind of ridiculous. And maybe like what we do is the first month of the season, like I'd keep a log, like what percentage of our YouTube. I love a
log. Let's do that anyway.
What percentage of our YouTube TV watching is just ESPN and Fox college football broadcasts? And like,
we would miss NBC.
Half. I think YouTube TV is like $77 or something dollars a month.
Wait, yes, we would miss the SEC network stuff.
No,
we'd have that.
That comes with the.
What about ACC?
I don't know if I think that any ESPN owned network is likely going to be included in this streaming bundle.
So we'd have ABC.
Yeah.
Yeah, any of the ESPN stuff on ABC we also get in this package. So yeah, you wouldn't get like the occasional Notre Dame game, I guess, which is on NBC.
But if we got Peacock, we would.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, there seems to be this new deal seems to give some flexibility to where you can make it work to where you're saving money. Because you're right. I bet you, especially, if you're just a college football fan or just an NFL fan, that's one thing. If you're both, that's basically, you're not watching a lot of other TV other than maybe like Survivor.
There's like nothing on YouTube TV that we watch.
No,
even
but
now,
would there be
outside of
quad
football
box?
season. Can we quad box the ESPN and Fox streaming bundle? I don't know. Probably
If we
not.
can't, then I'm not interested.
Jesus Christ. So we're going to pay double just to quad box these fucking games that you can barely pay attention to anyway?
All right, you start paying for it.
It's she's such a psycho with the goddamn streaming services.
I mean, do you want to get another TV?
Anyway.
That seems ridiculous.
So this is one bundle option. You can also just do, because I think you can bundle like Disney Plus with the ESPN
We have that.
streaming stuff, but we pay for Disney Plus anyway. And you throw in Hulu as well, and then that becomes a different sort of bundle that you can have. It's obviously far more complicated than it used to be. And this was ostensibly what everyone wanted, right? Was the ability to shop around and get what you want. But there are every once in a while you see an article that's like, if you are a sports fan and you just want to watch all of the football, it will cost you whatever it is, $800 a year to subscribe to all of the different things in order to watch all of the football. And if you are a baseball fan, it will cost you this amount of money and that sort of thing. It's obviously only getting worse as far as that stuff goes. I do wonder, could we be on the verge of true a la carte options at any point? Like, if I want to watch this football game and we just make it pay-per-view, could they get it down to like, I don't know, $6 a game? Where
Right.
it's like reasonable to tune in instead of doing the bullshit like, yeah, I'll sign up for Peacock for a year for $19.99 and then get to watch this game and then kind of forget that I had Peacock anyway. Like, I don't think you can get away with $55 or $75 for like pay-per-view for any random college football game. But like for $6 or $8, like that seems like reasonable and an impulse buy kind of thing where you're surfing around on a Saturday. It's like, I want to watch Ohio State against Illinois or something, like, and I'll pay $6 for that rather than paying either $80 a month for cable or $40 a month for one of the bundling options.
It's interesting you mention pay-per-view because that seems to be like now a dying format because also in the news was the UFC, who had a deal with ESPN, now has a deal with Paramount, CBS, and basically it'll just be like if you pay for Paramount Plus, what used to be pay-per-view events, like monthly events, are now going to be part of Paramount Plus. I think the wrestling.
So if you want to watch the Mission Impossible movies and also UFC,
yeah.
you have to sign up for Paramount Plus.
Right. So, which basically means the end of UFC pay-per-views. There's no wrestling pay-per-views anymore. Once in a blue moon, whenever they have a boxing fight, like one of the Paul people or whomever, like one of these goofy fights, I think that's like on DAZN or some other thing. Seems like there aren't that many only on pay-per-view things. So it'd be interesting to see if they tried like your strategy of like $5 or some small amount for like a particularly high marquee game.
Yeah.
But, you would want, basically they want eyeballs because they make a lot of money with ads, right? So, like, if you have a big college football game and it's like, two top 5 teams playing each other, you want that to be on prime time or if it's on this stupid big noon, whatever, like at noon, and then just play a bunch of fucking ads and make your money that way also. So you don't necessarily need to create a barrier for people to watch.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Lower the barrier for entry for people who aren't necessarily already hooked into your ecosystem. And
Right.
I think that would be good for people.
Not that people care about this, but I wonder that this is likely going to create some bit of a hassle for the sports bars because like now you have to have like 20 different accounts. Like, oh, which one is this? This is the one on Peacock. Let me fire that up, or this is on this other channel. Like if they end up like, I mean, right now you can get like a DirecTV or YouTube TV, but are we trending to a point where like in maybe 2 or 3 seasons, like you have to go specifically to that company for that product? Like Paramount Plus will be like, this is the exclusive home for anything related to UFC or whatever. And
Do you know how much they paid for that? By the way, do you know what the contours of that deal are?
I don't know, but it was like something in the billions. I forget what it was.
I think ESPN has some sort of relationship now with WWE. I think I read that recently too. It seems.
Yeah. And this is happening again where it's like everywhere because I think Netflix also has a deal. Same thing with Netflix has a deal with the NFL. Are they still doing that Christmas thing like this year? They did it last year, I think, like where they would show some NFL games over Christmas.
Probably. Yeah.
So it seems like you have to go to many different places instead of just like a one-stop shop. Like I just have, Xfinity and I can just channel surf. You can't do that. You have to like figure out a different options.
Yeah, I mean, it is still better than the old days where you only got the Fox and the CBS games, and before that the NBC games. Like you had to, and whatever showed up in your local market was the only game that you could fucking watch. I mean, it's still sort of annoying. Because I've never paid for the NFL big package, like wherever that has been, whether that's like the DirecTV thing, like Sunday Ticket, wherever it was. We've never paid for it because I don't care enough about NFL beyond getting to watch the games that come to our house on the networks anyway. So like whatever. And also the Giants fucking suck. So not a big priority.
But as long as, YouTube TV, I don't have to change anything this year. Everything's the same. I can watch all the stuff normally. I'm holding out on re-upping. You just mentioned you haven't gotten any DirecTV Sunday Ticket or YouTube TV Sunday Ticket, but I have the last couple of years to watch the shitty Colts team turn things around.
The Colts team that's going to win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years,
within the next 3 years. It's not going to be this year. I can rule out this year. So the next 2 out of the next 3 years, there'll be a good contending team. But these assholes, the first year they give you like an introductory rate, and then the next year they're like, okay, we'll throw, maybe $20 more. Now they want like almost $400+, like where before it was like $250, $280. So it's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to wait until the first week, and they'll come up with some sort of promo rate, and then I'll just sign up then.
What is full freight for Sunday Ticket? $420.
Yeah, it was $260 or something last time. $280.
$420 for an 18-week season, and there's a good chance that, like, does that include the Netflix games? Does that include?
No.
Right, so there's a good chance that will not even include all of the games that you want to watch.
Right, because basically it's like, hey, it's Sunday Ticket. You'll watch those games. But I think if they can, you'll be able to watch your team. I think they're going to start offering like team packages. But even then, I think if it's a Netflix product, I don't think Sunday Ticket can do anything about that.
Right. But even the team package is going to cost you, like, because most people are paying the Sunday Ticket not because they want to watch the fucking Browns, even though they're like they want to watch their team. They're not paying because they want to watch every single fucking football game.
Oh, exactly.
All right, away from the sports news of the week and over to ostensibly more important things. Briefly, Donald Trump has decided that he's going to send in the National Guard and take over the policing of the District of Columbia from the city. He is doing this by claiming that there's a massive emergency.
Right.
There's a funny clip of him. I'm going to see if I can pull it up real quick. I don't have it handy. It was very much in the spirit of American Carnage, where he's talking about, like, there are just gangs of roving youths going around and just doing murder in the streets.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse.
Whatever's on the page, even though presumably he saw it before and signed off on it, because he will give notes, right? And he's been known to like mark up a speech and like add stuff to it. But like even here, where he's squalor and bloodshed, whatever the three awful things were, he has to ad lib and worse.
Yeah.
I talked to my boss all day. I don't know if I can handle a lot of Donald Trump.
All right, it'd be minimal Trump clips here.
Rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly. And you people are victims of it, too. You know, you're reporters, and I understand a lot of you tend to be on the liberal side, but you don't want to get mugged and raped and shot and killed. And you all know people and friends of yours that happened. And so you can be anything you want, but you want to have safety in the streets. You want to be able to leave your apartment or your house where you live and feel safe and go into a store to buy a newspaper or buy something. And you don't have that now. Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged-out maniacs and homeless people. And we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to take it.
It's interesting that Trump, he's done this sort of thing before where he'll create like this alternate reality. And it's like, I'm going to come in and fix something that doesn't necessarily exist. Like all of the crime stats seem to be trending in the positive direction, where things are not as bad as they were, 30-year lows, all of these different stats you keep hearing. But I think it's because it's in D.C. and he has some power over that. I don't know if this is like a trial run for trying to go to other cities, which would be more or less legal to do it there. But I think it seems like he's got this emergency power, which I think he's used like over 30 times. This must be like the craziest year of emergencies, like 2025. I think it's like 30 emergency-related executive orders and actions in like 7-8 months. It's a remarkable stretch.
Emergencies like violent crime being at relative lows from both his first term in office,
right,
and also the Biden years, and also the late 1990s, right? Like
right.
We are at, as you're saying, according to the various fact checkers that have been yapping, at 30-year lows for violent crime in different categories, and certainly down since the pandemic spike.
Right.
But he uses these emergencies to do, or he claims these emergencies, whether it's the fake violent crime emergency in Washington, D.C. And I mean that it doesn't mean that there's no violent crime that happens.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that you can go trawling the pages of whatever newspapers still are printed in D.C. and find that violent crimes are being reported. But there are always violent crimes happening, yes. Right? And so
right.
If that's just a state of how things are, then you cannot be definitionally an emergency any more than it was at any other point in the 4 years that he was in power the first time around, or this first 6 months or so up to this point. There are any number of other examples of him claiming emergencies. All of the tariff stuff that he's done under the claim of either national security or emergency powers, and that is simply not defensible because everything's been fine, right? You can't say that there's an emergency just because you don't like the way that the policies have been for the previous 30 years.
But that is kind of like this loophole, because you just say something is an emergency, and it's kind of hard to then say, oh, we disagree with your assessment that it is an emergency. Like this current emergency is supposed to run for 30 days, and I don't know if they're going to like come up with a new emergency on day 31 to reset the clock, or how they're going to go about it. But basically, you have 30 days to do what? Like, so they're just going to be just out and about, just kind of like harassing people, or how is this going to solve anything? Like, what's the idea?
I don't know, and I don't know how. Because he's also gone on to say that, like Chicago and New York and San Francisco or whatever, like be on notice. This should serve as an example to you guys as to what can happen if you don't get things under control. But of course, the president doesn't have this sort of to his credit, this authority does exist within the presidency, right? He's allowed to administer D.C. in this way, in a way that he's not permitted to other real states. And so I don't know what that means. Like, I don't think that we can expect to see the National Guard deployed to Chicago for these police actions, but I guess maybe that's what he's getting at.
But what's the end goal? Like, is he like seeking a confrontation to use them, or like, because when there were this buildup of National Guard people in L.A., like they just kind of came and went, like, and now it's D.C. and then some other city. Like, what's the end game? Just to kind of just lord this power over people to say, like, what are you going to do about it, and hope for somebody to do something so that they can react to it? I don't know. It just seems very strange.
I will go to Andrew Sullivan's Substack that you shared with me earlier today. I had already read it, but you sent it along as well. And his answer to that question would be, it is because it is a display of arbitrary power. The phrase arbitrary power comes up a few times in his recent essay. And the first of which, it says, the tyrant's first textbook tactic, of course, is declaring an emergency to justify the seizure of arbitrary power. Trump has now done so over 30 times in various executive orders and directives in his first 7 months. Previous presidents have moved the dial of executive power as a polarized, deadlocked Congress has surrendered more and more authority. But even John Yoo, who once argued that a U.S. president has the right to crush the testicles of a child if he so wishes, now acknowledges Trump has elevated that to another level. He goes on later, this is why it's worth recalling Ben Franklin's pinpointing of the essence of tyranny, arbitrary power. There is no sane or reasoned argument for suddenly throwing a wrench into the entire wind power sector, for example. There is just Trump. There is no underlying principle behind the varying, dizzying tariff rates, just Trump. There's no rationale for getting American scientific research or taking $500 million away from an mRNA vaccine research. It's just a way for Trump to hurt lefties on campus. The sudden, seemingly random assaults on lifetime allies, threatening Denmark over Greenland, sticking Switzerland with a sudden 39% tariff, telling Canada they should become the 51st state, are the essence of arbitrary absolute power based on nothing but one man's thrill at bullying those weaker than himself and having them prostrate before him. I think that is basically correct, that he is in a mode of simply asserting his arbitrary power wherever wherever the neurons have most recently led him to do so, right? And it's why it's always silly to think in terms of like Trump having a plan. It's just that something crossed his desk that day or last week that became an opportunity for him to exercise power, and he's just going to do so, and they will find the rationale or the justification for it on the back end.
Right. I mean, that's kind of like what happened with Brazil, right? It's just like, oh, you guys are. I don't like what's happening with Bolsonaro, so I'm gonna impose this tariff. And what are you gonna do about it? And then have his people come defend it as if it's like some sort of like trade related things. It's like it's because he wants to punish the judicial system that's punishing this guy that he likes. That's all it is.
Right, and the more arbitrary, like the relative amount of arbitrariness it encounters no resistance from those who would defend him, right? Like, and that reinforces the arbitrary nature of his power, which is that they don't care. Whatever it is that he has said he is going to do, they will defend, and the more it upsets the media, the better, right?
Right.
Because then,
actually, it's proof positive that he's on the right course. It's like I don't have to like pay attention if people or institutions that I believe are not doing things the way that I like. If they're upset, that's a good indication. So I don't need to like dig deep and read this whole article. I just know something good is happening because the media is pissed off, or these schools are pissed off, or whatever. Like somebody's pissed off that I don't like, so something good must be happening. I think that's like the extent of the engagement in some cases.
Yeah. And to some extent, like anytime you go to war against a major American urban center, you're going to win, especially if you're on the so-called law and order side of things, because anybody who's defending the Washington, D.C. police can just point to any of a dozen different examples over the course of 2 weeks where something bad happened to someone.
Right.
And it's almost not fair, of course, but like that's part of what makes living in this sort of fully polarized society so entirely intolerable, that there is no genuine effort or genuine pluralistic effort at making life better for the citizenry. The entire thing is just tribal warfare at all times.
Right.
Speaking of, and we briefly mentioned it last week, Trump going to Texas and saying, get me 5 seats by doing some new congressional district map drawing. And then everybody else, like I think Pritzker from Illinois was on one of the Sunday shows this week saying, well, we're going to do the same thing in Illinois, but the difference is we're going to do it with a mandate from the people, as opposed to just having Donald Trump call up Greg Abbott and be like, hey, get me 5 more congressional seats. It's worth noting, I think, that Illinois has a congressional delegation that is 9 Democrats and 3 Republicans.
Right.
And 75% of Illinois residents do not vote blue. It's worth pointing out. Whereas Texas, I did some quick math. I think that they have a congressional class that's roughly 2/3 or perhaps a little more. That their delegation is, I want to say 25 of them are Republicans and they have 8 Democrats. But only 58% or something like that. So the point that I'm getting at, my numbers will be wrong, is that the relative percentage of people whose political interests are discounted are significantly higher in Illinois than they currently are in Texas.
Right.
Now, would that would no longer be the case if they went to 30-3 or whatever, or 32-3 in terms of representation coming out of Texas? They would surpass Illinois in terms of silencing the voices of people who have the minority political opinion. But as it stands now, Illinois is already more severely gerrymandered, and obviously Texas now. I think part of this whole thing is they have with the expansion of the Hispanic share of Trump's support, it makes it significantly easier to redraw boundaries that aren't quite as absurd in terms of the shape of these districts, and still land. So you have something that appears fair by the map drawing standard, but in fact disenfranchises a greater number of people.
Right.
If you can even call that disenfranchisement. Like your mileage may vary in terms of how much you think that the redrawing of congressional districts is actually disenfranchisement.
I think like the states of California and New York are where they can draw the map in such a way to kind of get additional seats for the Dems. Like I think Illinois,
except
not so much.
That as what's his name in California,
Newsom.
As Newsom is saying, he's going to have to. Part of this process would be to suspend the law that they not all of that distantly passed in order to make this a more difficult thing, right?
Right.
Like the people of California have already previously voted against this sort of partisan gerrymandering and made it more difficult. And so part of Newsom doing this with the legislature would be that they would have to get a citizen initiative or whatever, one of these Democratic votes before the people and say, we're going to suspend the thing that we did last time because the Republicans are cheating so much, and then we're going to cheat in similar fashion.
Yes.
And that is, and according to Pritzker and Newsom, that is democracy in action, right? That the 2/3 of people are going to vote to shit on their neighbors, and that's democracy, and that's
Seems
a good
to be
thing.
like the strategy is like we want to discourage bad behavior with more bad behavior. I think like the timeline for California and I think also New York will put them beyond the midterms. I think like Texas can't get it all done before the midterms. Whether those 5 seats is going to be enough to withstand what's likely to happen, who knows? But like, I guess it's if you're only concerned about just raw naked power, then I guess this is an approach to take. I do wonder if they're taking for granted, for many years, Democrats took for granted the Hispanic vote, and things kind of shifted away from them. Like with some of the initiatives I'm reading about where they're like trying to get racial profiling to be like A-okay. Like we want to be able to just, hey, you look Hispanic, and that's cause for us to pull you over or to detain you.
Right. The Trump administration has just asked, or Bondi, I guess, in before the Supreme Court, has asked for the ability to racially profile when they are attempting to detain people that they believe are illegal immigrants. Right. They're out and out saying we should be permitted based on the skin color, the language that they're speaking, the job that they're working, or where they happen to be hanging out, be that in front of a Home Depot or at a bus stop or whatever.
Right.
That itself is cause for or reasonable suspicion to walk up to them and say, papers, please, basically.
Right. And so, like, if they were to carry that sort of thing out and it becomes like a national thing, then that's going to hurt them in the midterm, right? Because basically even like conservative people that are Hispanic or, you know, anyone that may come under suspicion for no reason other than the way they look, they're not going to probably care for it. And Trump is not on the ballot either. So this will be we'll punish the congressperson or the senator, but it's not going to hurt Trump, at least not to them. So like, I think that there's the risk of going too far and assuming things about the voters in 26. There could be some pushback against some of these things.
I would hope so. I think that most people have a general opinion that gerrymandering is wrong.
Right.
It doesn't stop politicians from doing it. Obviously, it's a tool in their toolbox, and it will likely never meaningfully go away as long as we have the system that we have, which specifically one that is limited to 435 seats in Congress, I think makes this, you know, when you're battling over relatively few resources, such as that, it makes it's the stakes are way too high to not engage in this sort of battle when you know that if you don't, like you can't unilaterally disarm, in other words. And this is something that, like, I think Eric Holder was on with one or two of the different Sunday shows this weekend, basically making that point. Like, for years, I have fought against gerrymandering. I've been a spokesman for various citizen initiatives against gerrymandering. Sadly, we can no longer be in a position to unilaterally disarm, since we know that our political, ideological opponents are going to do this. Unfortunately, I'm going to side with Gavin Newsom and J.D. Pritzker, or J.B. Is he J.D. or J.B. Pritzker? I don't know.
One of the two.
The fat billionaire from Illinois, and say, let's go ahead and do this. Although perhaps you hear in my telling there, I think there is a solution here, and I was frustrated to see this morning, having already come up with this solution, that Matt Iglesias on his Substack posted something similar this morning, which
should make you happy when someone agrees with you.
Yeah, sure, but now it makes it look like I just fucking read this stupid Substack and didn't already have this idea. But go back to something that I posted on brainiron.com, a good website, a few years ago now. Headline, "Blow Up the Electoral College," where I said not to do violence to it, but to make it much, much larger, where I think I said you have to add like 6,000 odd electors to the Electoral College, and I had settled on a number of have an elector for one elector for 50,000 people, and then do away with this situation where you end up with an elector in Wyoming is voting for 200,000 people, while an elector in California is voting for 780,000 people, or however the math happens to work out in any given year. And instead, just do one elector for every 50,000 people who are in the voting pool. And I think that makes things significantly better, just in terms of proportional representation of what the people want, and it flattens the effect that the smaller states can have, and it's worth also, I think, and I acknowledged in the initial post, worth pointing out, Trump, even in my modified system, still would have won in 2016. Like my 2016 Electoral College fix does not actually prevent Donald Trump, despite the fact that he won fewer votes than did Hillary Clinton, because Hillary's plurality was relatively small. It was like 48% or whatever it was that she gained, her popular vote margin still wasn't enough to overcome even my system that flattens the effect of the smaller states, because Trump won so many important swing states, even in 2016. But combine my idea to blow up the Electoral College, which in concert with that, you should blow up Congress. And again, I'm not talking about violence, to be clear.
Enlarge.
I want to blow it up in size. Congress should be significantly larger. And the way that you accomplish that is far more congressional districts. I think that the thing that Iglesias said, which is the thing that I had also considered, which is proportional representation rather than winner-take-all type of situation. And the way that you do that is essentially multi-member districts. And so if you increase the number of members of Congress by increasing the number of congressional districts, and you do so roughly in line with what my prescription was for the Electoral College back a few years ago, and then also include proportional representation, where let's say that in Charlottesville, because we've reduced the number of people that are behind each representative, right? So right now in Virginia, our congressional delegation is, like 12? Virginia is allotted 11 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives, and our population is 8.811 million. So let's do some quick math here. If you divide nearly 9 million people by 50,000, you end up with 176 Electoral College votes, and therefore also in my system, 176 Congress people. Maybe that's a bit unwieldy. I will acknowledge that Congress gets a little bit out of hand at that number. But figure out a number that makes sense for Congress, which I think the founders would recognize should be significantly larger than currently is. And there are many, I think, very good philosophical reasons to have a much larger Congress, specifically that Congress is not going to be responsive to my needs or to my interests as an individual voter if I'm one of 750,000 constituents that they have. It's ludicrous. And the idea that I can be represented, my interests can be fairly represented at the federal level by my congressperson is an absurdity in the current system. Again, maybe 176 congresspeople from Virginia is too many, but I think 11 is significantly too few. Anyway, if you go with my 176 for the state of Virginia, and within our district, you can even keep the districts as they are. You could still have 435 congressional districts in the United States. But then within those congressional districts, you award more than one representative per district. And so within Charlottesville, let's say we end up with 10 or 5, and we vote 80-20. Well, now we get 4 Democrats and 1 Republican elected to serve as part of our congressional delegation. That makes things better for the 20% of Republicans, in addition to making things better for me as somebody who probably didn't vote for that Republican, right?
Right.
But it also encourages a more centrist-leaning type to make himself known in my district. Again, and I've talked about like ranked choice voting as a solution to this. I think that ranked choice voting makes a great deal of sense. Also, when you have more, just bigger numbers, right? Rather than just one Democrat and one Republican going up against each other, a ranked choice system encourages more people to get involved in the system and to have less extreme views. Because the person who's not a lunatic, you might be like, well, I'll vote for, even though I'm a lunatic ideologue, and so I'm going to vote for my favored lunatic ideologue. But worst case scenario, I don't want the other asshole's lunatic ideologue to get in there, so I'm going to make the more rational person my second or third overall choice. And then enough people do that, where you get more rational centrist type people elected to represent you. I think that this is a legitimate and viable solution to the problem of gerrymandering and maybe I've done a poor job of explaining why this is a solution to gerrymandering, but like you don't have to do the drawing of the maps in absurd ways anymore. And also it allows people to not be disenfranchised by the drawing of the maps. Blowing up the number of people who serve in Congress combined with ranked choice voting, combined with proportional representation, I think makes for a healthier democracy in any number of ways. The only big speed bump that I see is that it does sort of solidify. You sort of have to solidify the party system. Like, does it maybe? I mean, but by default we have a two-party system anyway. So like what different, like if the worst thing that happens is everyone who runs for office has to be sorted into Democrat or Republican or independent, or maybe it does create the space for independent or other third parties to try to gain a foothold and be like 5% or something of the national Congress at some point down the road. I kind of doubt it. I think it encourages people to sort into either Democrat or Republican, and makes it easier for them to get into Congress anyway. But like I don't see a downside here. It'll never happen. Obviously,
so because of the one major downside. I mean, the proposal is great. It's good for democracy. It's good for the voters. It's bad for the existing members of Congress. Like, why would they want to dilute their own power, right? And they're the ones that would have to take this on. Like,
my quick response to that, and I know I just talked for fucking 15 minutes, but my immediate response to that is nobody wants these fucking jobs anyway, right?
They do. You don't think these members? I mean, these people are keeling over and dying before they let these jobs go, right? Clearly, they're getting something out of it. All of these reporters are on them. They're getting all of these favors from the lobbyists. Like, it sounds like a cushy gig, you know, because besides their salary, they have like a staff. They have all of these perks, lifetime, whatever. Health
Maybe
insurance.
I should rephrase that. The good ones don't want these fucking jobs anyway.
Right. But
right?
how many of them are there?
I guess that's the heart of the problem. Right. Yeah.
Because, you know, especially what another thing gerrymandering accomplishes is it has very safe districts for people to just bloviate and just say whatever they want without much consequence, because all they have to do is worry about their flank.
Fewer than 10% of the 435 congressional districts are up for grabs in terms of being like viable fights. Right.
So basically, it's like this entrenched power. Like, they don't want to give that up. There has to be some sort of like mutually beneficial arrangement for this to work. Like. And that's the one missing piece of the puzzle, like to kind of get it to where there's some benefit for the politicians that are in office now to cede some power by having a lot more members and have it be more representative. Now, if they want to do it for the greater good of the country, some sort of sacrifice, you know, maybe have a statue of them somewhere, I don't know, like something that would feed their ego. But there's got to be something to where they get something in return. Otherwise, like I kind of like the way it is now. Like I get to run for office with ease and get to raise money and go to all these parties, and you know, why change it?
Yeah, no, I think it requires a movement. I mean, it is essentially a revolutionary thing that I'm asking for.
Yeah,
and it's hard to imagine it coming to pass. It would have to. Like, I think it would have to be a constitutional amendment type thing. Right. I think you're right that Congress would never do it without significant pressure or without the potential for some sort of popular movement to get it done in some other fashion.
Right, and you know the environment is not exactly ripe for this. I mean, this is a very apathetic or disengaged political environment that we're in 25. Right, like it doesn't seem to matter what happens or what comes out of DC. Like, a lot of it is just met with some shrug. Maybe it's like, oh, these are early days. The midterms are still some ways away, and people feel maybe powerless to do anything about it. Maybe after the first Trump administration, people got maybe they don't see any value in going out in the streets and protesting things all the time. I don't know. It's a different vibe from the first Trump term, to where people are just like, whatever. Like, I just, you know, do whatever. And so, like, that's not the environment.
What did you send earlier today about along those lines. Was it some comment on the Trump article, right?
Yeah, you mean the Andrew Sullivan one? Because he basically said like one thing that surprised him, because he anticipated some of this, but what surprised him that liberal democracy just kind of folded. Like all of these different institutions are just kind of caving without much fight. It's just like, and the system hasn't folded yet. It's a bend but don't break system. A lot of bending, but it hasn't broken.
How much do you think that that's attributable to what I've talked about a bunch, the all stakes, no consequences sort of thing? Because part of where Trump will declare an emergency, and then in the old Bill Hicks joke, CNN is freaking out about death, murder, mayhem, war, bombs, and then you open the front door and it's just birds chirping and the sunlight filtering pleasantly through the trees in the late afternoon. As I quoted to my daughter the other day, if you thunder and lightning too much, the reader ceases to get under the bed after too long, the old Twain quote. I wonder if part of what I'm complaining about in our digital lives, and as first described by me in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where it's all stakes and no consequences, we are so accustomed to dealing in hyperbole and metaphor and these fake emergencies where Trump insists that the world is ending and only he can save it. And so he does all of this bluster and nonsense and does all of these actions that ultimately, like, they're not actually going to accomplish anything. And so there's no actual impact on the ground. And so the thing that the only consequence is in harm to the system, in some sort of like ineffable and sort of the philosophical underpinnings of a thing or what have you, that don't actually impact anybody's lives, right? Like, and all anybody, the random asshole who catches a headline on his phone or on the evening news is like, yeah, Trump, go get him, is basically going to be the reaction to that. Which is a funny thing to say if you think that the universe is falling apart, right? Like if you really truly believe the things that these people are saying about just how dire everything is, but your life is basically not impacted in a meaningful way by any of this stuff, it everything just loses all meaning, right? So like how much of what Trump is doing here in terms of, or how much of our reaction to it of just sort of a shrug makes sense given the fact that like it's all bluster over nothing. It's all, I mean, it was just not to say that the things that he's doing don't have meaningfully negative impacts on things, right? Like I sincerely think that the tariff regime is bad in part because it's basically just as I've said before, and many others have said many times, it's just a protection racket for people who are willing to come and bend the knee, right? And so for him to get personal glory out of it, and for them to prostrate themselves before him, and then for him to look like the big man on campus or what have you, eventually it's going to have negative consequences. But in the moment, it doesn't, right? And he will continue to fire people who insist that actually the negative consequences might actually be starting to happen, and he will then blame other factors for whatever happens. It will never be anything that he did wrong. That will just be the continuation of the Biden economy rather than anything that Trump has done. But I do wonder how much of this thing that's almost baked into the way that we consume all media now, which is at a greater remove than we ever have before, that somehow the medium of consumption matters in terms of how we relate to what's actually happening in the world. And therefore, it all feels very heightened, and we're going to read these headlines and we'll do our doom scrolling and we'll be freaking out about things. But ultimately, like, because it's happening on the phone, like it doesn't actually really matter, and therefore not everybody is really going to freak out as much as perhaps they should be.
Right. Also, not only that, like to your point earlier about comparing what you're experiencing and consuming on your phone with your day-to-day life. Like, if you have a family, the kids are still going to school, like everything else is still normal. Like people are mostly gainfully employed. I mean, unemployment hasn't ticked up that much. So like just your day-to-day life does not line up with mayhem that's coming out of the news and the social media feeds. And so, like, until those two start lining up, like, if your life or enough people's lives become disordered and it starts to mirror what they're seeing on their phone, then I think something will change then. But until something like that happens, this disconnect will cause people to just not react in any kind of way.
Yeah. All right. This is New York Times Magazine. He announced his intention to die. The dinner invitations rolled in. On Instagram, the artist Joseph Awuha Darko, I'm going to repeat that, Awuha Darko, asked the world to invite him to dinner before he ended his life. More than 150 meals later, he is still going. Abe, anything to say after the headline there?
So, I mean, I'm looking at his face, and he's not, he's not putting up Jimmy Carter numbers, right? So he's not old, and so did he have some sort of terminal illness that he can't get past? And he's
let's read on and find out. In early December, a 28-year-old Ghanaian artist and entrepreneur named Joseph Awuha Darko announced on Instagram that he wanted to die. His battles with bipolar disorder had crushed his will to live, he said in a minute-long video. So he had moved to the Netherlands to pursue medically assisted death. The post started with Mr. Awuha Darko in tears saying, "I'm just so tired," then segued to a series of images of him having what looked like a pretty good time, smiling and floating in shimmering blue water, relaxing on a lawn in the shade of a tree, pausing in contemplation on a wooden bridge. 3 days later, he followed up with one of the stranger dinner invitations in the history of dinner. As he navigated the obstacles of an officially sanctioned end, he wrote in a post, he would launch what he called the Last Supper Project. Anyone who wanted to cook an at-home meal for him could sign up on a calendar app linked to his Instagram bio. On the appointed evening, he would visit, and the assembled would converse, eat, and connect. Quote, "I want to find meaning again with people," he said in the post, "while I still have time left on Earth." Within a few days, thousands of people reached out. To date, Mr. Awuha Darko has attended 152 Last Suppers. He has boarded trains to visit homes in Berlin, Paris, Antwerp, and Milan. He has traveled to cities all over the Netherlands and to dozens of Amsterdam neighborhoods. Those who don't cook have treated him to high-end bistros where a meal costs $100 per person, and to Burger King. Along the way, he has captured the interactions with videos and photographs on Instagram, a bespoke scrapbook with a soundtrack by Debussy, Radiohead, and Roberta Flack, and an artist's eye for beauty. The meals look convivial and usually end with hugs. The hosts, thousands of fans, appear buoyed by Mr. Awuha Darko and his readiness to speak with candor about his innermost turmoil. He's essentially the charismatic star of a Gen Z home cooking show, but he brings a rawness that is rare for social media and inspires people to root for him. When he wrote appreciatively about two sisters who served him a Persian dinner, he said he was in the throes of a depressive episode. "I cried heavily during the latter 2 hours of the dinner before they sent me home in a cab with a bouquet of flowers. All I did was show up and they held so much space for me." The post received 10,000 likes. If people will open their arms to a stranger to help them experience being alive more fully before choosing to exit forever, one Instagram commenter wrote, maybe there's hope for all of us. Mental health experts, by contrast, are appalled. Mr. Awuha Darko, they say, is implying that euthanasia is a legitimate answer for people with bipolar disorder, a treatable condition. And the parents of depressed children contend that his farewell tour romanticizes suicide. I will skip a couple of paragraphs here. Some doubt that Mr. Awuha Darko truly intends to commit suicide, which
he'll show you.
But if this is a grift, it might be the world's lamest. Last Supper hosts typically cover Mr. Awuha Darko's travel expenses, but he doesn't earn any money from the meals. His sole means of income, he said, is a Substack newsletter that brings in about $2,000 a month. Now, pause in my recitation here. He's making good money, or maybe not quite a living wage on Substack, but
but better than nothing.
A good stipend on Substack. I want to go back to where he talked about his travels 152 Last Suppers boarded trains to visit homes in Berlin, Paris, Antwerp, and Milan, traveled to cities all over the Netherlands and to dozens of Amsterdam neighborhoods, covering travel expenses to take you all the fuck around Europe. That's no small thing. So let's not call it the world's lamest grift if, in fact, he's traveling all over Europe for these things.
This is like I don't know. I haven't read this article, so I don't know if this person's dead. But this sounds like a total...
quite well. Skip the spoilers. He now has 542 Instagram followers and a singular place in the social media firmament as what could be called an assisted death influencer. And as of late July, he also had something every bit as unexpected, a reason to live. This goes on to describe just how fucking obnoxious this person is in person, where he basically gets to these dinners and soliloquizes for 2 hours about how miserable he is.
If I'm hosting him for his 145th Last Supper, like one of the questions goes, "Hey, what the fuck? Why are you still alive? Like, why is this guy still doing this thing?"
Mr. Owuha, I'm not interrupting you. I'm saying that this is asked and answered in the article. So ... towards the end, Mr. Owuha Darko does not shy from the obvious and profoundly awkward questions raised by the Last Supper project. Among them, if you truly want to die, why not kill yourself? He gets that one a lot. I could easily decide to jump from a building, he told me, but I want to do this in a responsible way, in a manner that is nonviolent, and I don't want to transfer my trauma to anyone who discovers my body.
That's nice of him.
He decided to pursue medically assisted death somewhat impulsively, no shit, while coming down from a manic episode. He was homeless and deeply depressed, and it seemed to offer a dignified exit. One problem, academics in the field say, there is little chance that a doctor in the Netherlands will help Mr. Owuha Darko die. By way of background, about 10,000 people were medically euthanized in the Netherlands last year. There is no formal application process and no regulatory body that approves or denies. Thousands of physicians can perform the procedure, but the Dutch want to prevent what Professor Boer called euthanasia tourism. Patients must have a residential address, a local doctor, and Dutch health insurance. And even if Mr. Owuha Darko were to meet those requirements, there is another hurdle. Before doctors agree to help anyone die, they must conclude that the person's suffering is unbearable. And this is a guy having a grand goodbye tour with dinners, Professor Boer said. Any doctor here would look online and reject his case. He's having too much fun. Pause again in my recitation of this article. Is Professor Boer here suggesting that if he were legitimately having a bad time, that the Dutch would just be like, all right, yeah, let's fucking put you down?
I mean, at least it would clear one hurdle, like it's unbearable pain or whatever.
Again, to skip to the end here, and his evident reason for being. Right, so at Last Supper number 145, he met someone. A few weeks later, on a Friday in late July, Mr. Owuha Darko's life took a surprising turn when he traveled by bus to Poland. It was not for a Last Supper, but rather to visit Mr. Miller, somebody who was at the 145th dinner, who was renting an Airbnb in Wroclaw. The next night, that's a stupid word, W-R-O-C-L-A-W. Those Polish in their weird words.
Julia went there.
The next night, as the pair sat in a bar, Mr. Owuha Darko proposed marriage. He had been smitten with Mr. Miller from the moment he saw him at the dinner, he later explained, and they had since been texting. Mr. Miller said yes. I had a hunch he might find me interesting, Mr. Miller said on the phone from Poland. For him, this isn't about romance so much as a chance to add excitement to a life that feels empty. By the way, great reason to get fucking engaged. Quote, also, I'm asexual, and I can't really reciprocate the same type of love I think normal people expect in a relationship, so I can't be picky. End quote. Mr. Owuha Darko announced the engagement, his fifth. in a Substack posting. Quote, I believe with him I finally have something I did not have for a long time, hope, and the promise of someone who can finally match my freak. End quote. Objection. He's asexual. I
Yeah.
don't think he can match your freak. To hear him explain it, Love has cured Mr. Awu Hadarko of all interest in medical euthanasia. I met a guy who made the idea of sticking around more bearable than the idea of leaving, he said on the phone from Poland. On Instagram, this whole plot twist was greeted with both delight, quote, my heart is happy when your heart is happy, end quote, and skepticism, quote, well, that was a bit hasty, end quote. His zeal for Last Suppers is undimmed. In late July, he held number 145 at a restaurant in Poland as he told followers any meal could be his last. Who knows? And anyway, his primary purpose has never changed. Ultimately, he wants what his followers want, what millions of people want, someone to look into his eyes and listen.
Okay, I'm glad this guy's still hanging around, but boy, what a... I'm not going to say the word, but...
He's an asshole, Abe. I don't know if that was the word you were going for.
I was going with twat, but that works too.
He's an asshole.
That is just... Oh, man. This guy...
There's this whole thing. The Substacker, Freddie DeBoer, is a writer that I admire, though our politics are wildly divergent, has talked a great deal about how influencer culture has been, that there's this, as this guy is, sort of a mental health issue influencer type. Like people get on Instagram or TikTok and they talk about their bipolar disorder or their alleged bipolar disorder, or how they are ADHD, or how they're any of a number, like multiple personalities. Like there's all these fucking scammers out there who insist that they have multiple personality disorder. And so then they go on there as their different personalities and pretend like and some of them maybe are actually afflicted with the problem. But there's this whole ecosystem of people who have medicalized their psychological issues and turned them into money-making machines by talking about them online all the time. And it's obviously really bad to do that with your mental health, or realistically, what you're doing is fucking up other people's mental health. And it's this incredibly sort of narcissistic instinct. And actually, they get into that in this. This is quite a long article. I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes. Anybody wants to read the whole thing. But what I can't get past is how fucking internally and personally focused this individual must be to be posting these fucking videos of himself crying and talking about how he wants to end it all, and then turning it into this multi-month or multi-year journey of being whisked around Europe to dinners with various people. What
do you make of the motivation driving some of these people hosting this guy that wants to die? Like, I'm sure it's a mixed crowd. Like, I mean, some of them maybe are trying to talk him out of it by showing them the better part of life, and others are like, I want to be part of somebody dying. Like, I don't know what the makeup of these people are. It's just a weird thing. Like, if somebody told me, like, hey, I'm going to die, can you make me, like, a sandwich? I'm like, no, go see a shrink or something. Like, I'm not, get the fuck out of here. Like, but, like, for them to
I suspect it's a bunch, I mean, the people who would consume this sort of content, which is what it is, it's just fucking content.
Right.
They are similarly deeply self-interested and self-concerned people who believe that what they're doing is an exercise in empathy, but in all likelihood is just an exercise in self-concern more than anything else. I didn't mean to bring it up just to poke fun at this asshole, who I think is like very clearly some sort of narcissistic asshole, and whether he's actually got bipolar disorder or not, I don't particularly care. I just know that a person, the thing that strikes me is similar to what the bipolar expert community was up in arms about, which is like, bipolar is not a reason to fucking kill yourself. Like,
right.
we can just give you some medicine and it won't be that bad anymore. But this goes to a broader conversation about assisted suicide that I know we've talked about in passing before. But like 10,000 people received medical euthanasia in the Netherlands last year is the number that this Times piece is saying happened. It seems like so many people.
It does sound like a big number.
I don't like this trend in, I think it's throughout Scandinavia, this is a fairly common practice. I know that in Canada it is increasingly easy to get yourself offed by a doctor, if that's what your want is. And it just goes up against everything that I think a doctor and a society should be encouraging. And I know that there are times when I think that it is likely called for. Maybe you're a fucking 75-year-old with inoperable cancer, and the next 18 months are just going to be utter pain as your body eats itself alive from the inside out, and only either being thoroughly drugged up to the point where you're barely conscious or barely aware of your surroundings anymore. That's the life that you're going to have for the next 18 months. Then like an argument can be made that a healthy dose of morphine is a more humane solution here. But anything short of ongoing painful march towards death being the prognosis, and then saying, "No, yeah, we'll just go ahead and kill you," strikes me as just plain morally wrong.
I suspect the vast majority of those 10,000 people are like end of life, terminal kind of situations where like it's a foregone conclusion that you're going to die. The only prospect for living is just to suffer while you're living for the last few months, and then at that point
to suffer and also like drain resources of your
Right.
family in both a financial and emotional and psychological way, right? So it
Right.
can be something that makes sense for you, I suppose.
Right.
I think
So, like, if that exists for that, I think it's like whatever. Just the whole idea just seems a bit squeamish to me. But like, I don't live your life. I'm not suffering your pain. Like, there are so many people that are trying to live and they can't, and they're struggling. Like, if somebody wants to die and they're like old, like, hey, have at it.
I guess. I think that have at it is different than having an infrastructure that encourages it.
Well,
or
I mean,
makes
encouraging
it
it is-
reasonably easy. And I know you're saying presumably 99.5% of these are whatever. Also, last week I read a New York Times piece, I think it was the Times, about how people are being operated on while still alive in order
Yes.
to harvest their fucking organs in in Kentucky and other
Right.
states.
Yeah.
Where people are being like gurneyed into the operating room and like coming to and being like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
To say nothing of the fact that like, I know this is now I'm stepping further out on a limb here, but like the question of whether or not we're good at determining that brain deadedness actually means brain deadedness is very much up in the air, and I think has recently been called into greater question. I don't remember, within the last couple of years I've read something about it, where somebody came out of what was a persistent vegetative state and was fucking fine, right? And like everyone had signed off on, oh, this person is brain dead,
Right.
and there's nothing left inside there. And keeping them alive is just a drain on resources, and it's not good for anybody. And then they like fucking woke up someday. And there are any number of anecdotes that you read about people like, and they always tell you when, maybe this is just movies, but like they're always telling the person who's sitting next to the person in the coma, talk to them. Maybe they can hear you. Maybe there's something going on in there that we don't fully understand. And obviously, like, I think it is rare that somebody goes to the Netherlands and is like, just fucking kill me. I'm miserable and I'm fucking 40 and otherwise healthy. But also, it is rare that somebody gets into a car wreck and is in an induced coma of some sort and then like wakes up on the operating table.
Right.
But also, if we build these systems, and the problem with that, or the problems identified by that article that I read, is that we have incentivized perhaps the wrong thing here, where we're putting people in charge of making these decisions or encouraging these decisions that don't have the best interest of the patient lying there on the table at heart, and instead are concerned with the next person on their list of who needs a liver or
Right.
who needs a kidney or what have you. And so when you have these competing interests now that are in that operating room together, you don't always get the right outcome for the person currently laying on the table there. To say nothing of the fact that, like, a lot of times these organs don't fucking help, right? Like, like a lot of times you get a heart into somebody and they're dead 6 months later.
Yeah,
like even the good transplant cases are like, we extended this person's life by 14 months or something. Like, it's a very difficult and dodgy thing to do, to be able to get some other human being's organs into you and have them function normally.
Right. I guess it's still worth the effort, though, right? If you're needing some sort of thing and it's there, even if it's 6 more months, it's better than nothing. Does the story out of Kentucky, and I'm sure there are others, does it give you any pause into, like, being a organ donor or not? Like, or is it just such an outlier case that you're not worried that they're going to harvest your shit while you're still alive?
It certainly gave me the idea that, like, I should have, because it's one thing to check the box on your driver's license. It's another thing to not have any sort of a living will, and I don't have one of those. It's never.
Is that important? I don't have one of those.
I mean, I think
you're really supposed to have one.
You should have one, in part because, like, especially if you've got that organ donor box checked.
Oh, I do.
Like, yeah, and I do too, I believe. But, like, I want to have, like, just because I'm in a coma for 18 hours, like, let's not pull the plug just yet, right? Like, just because it says organ donor, and just because this one asshole doctor is like, yeah, he's dead. Like, are you sure?
They should let you decide which organs are good. You know, I want to keep some of the organs. Like, not all organs are available for harvesting.
Yeah, if I'm you can have that one kidney to start. See how the one kidney surgery goes. Keep me in the iron lung or what have you for 36 hours after that. Like, how much of my liver do you need?
Exactly.
Anyway, all right. Let's do some quick Strassmann here. This is from a few weeks ago. Headline, CBS News: Fight over fluoride in water continues.
The battle over adding fluoride to public drinking water is heating up. This week, Connecticut's governor signed legislation requiring the state to keep fluoride at existing levels. But Florida and Utah have banned adding fluoride to drinking water, and other states may follow. Mark Strassmann has tonight's Eye in America.
We dropped by Brian King's cattle farm in northwest Arkansas. Does this seem a long way from the fluoride debate?
Oh, yeah.
To talk about fluoride. You're anti-fluoride?
I mean, I do have concerns. This is just a state issue.
King is also an Arkansas state senator. And since 2011, when the state mandated most public drinking water include fluoride, King has thrown his anti-fluoride voice behind a handful of bills seeking to repeal that mandate.
The dentists say the science of fluoride is undeniable.
Mm-hmm. If that's the case, they need to individually go out to each water district and sell it to the people in there and let them make their own water decisions.
Fluoride is a natural mineral. It strengthens teeth and fights dental decay. And since the 1940s, it's been added to America's public drinking supplies, such as this one servicing Fort Smith, Arkansas. The CDC rated fluoride as one of the top 10 public health achievements of the 20th century. But at least 19 states have considered legislation to remove, ban, or make fluoride optional in public drinking water.
The evidence against fluoride is overwhelming.
Fluoride critics include Robert Kennedy Jr., the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services. In the latest skirmish over science, fluoride opponents argue that at high levels, it can lead to kidney and liver damage and lower IQs in children. But dentists such as Kenton Ross say the science supporting fluoride is indisputable. He's also president of the state's Dental Association.
You're going to see a 25% reduction in tooth decay. We have over 75 years of research behind community water fluoridation.
It goes into a day storage tank, and then it's pumped into the water.
Lance McAvoy oversees Fort Smith's water supply. He showed us its fluoride system.
It's monitored 24/7?
Yes. So we actually take samples every 15 minutes to verify the online equipment.
Have you ever had an instance where significantly higher level than desired got into the system?
No, we have not.
And to dentists, losing fluoride could mean losing the battle against tooth decay.
It's going to affect the children the worst because if they don't get it, we can't put it in later in life.
Come here. So The biggest issue I've seen in my time in politics when it comes to healthcare is the trust factor, being able to trust, the scientists, the government, the funding.
But with critics like King, the anti-fluoride fight is growing, and their concerns can't just be brushed away. For Eye in America, I'm Mark Strassmann in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
All right, did Mark Strassmann, CBS News' senior national correspondent, get off a good one?
I've criticized Strassmann for tagging his segments with a good one at the very end, even though the rest of the segment lacked any good ones. But I'll give him a good one this time.
Strassmann gets off a good one. All right, Strassmann gets off a good one. I disagree. I think he could have swung a little bit harder there.
Did you have any suggestions?
I mean, not off the top of the dome, but I'm sure I could come up with something. And this is obviously part of a larger conversation about MAHA and Make America Healthy Again and the crunchy mom sort of theory of everything about where we are in the world. But is it bonkers of me to feel sympathetic to the fucking, I forget where they said this,
Northwestern
Arkansas politician is coming from, just in terms of, like, he's not wrong about if we live in an environment in which the public does not have any trust or faith in the institutions that are making these decisions, then you can't expect to be able to do this sort of massive public health initiative when people as prominent as the Secretary of Health and Human Services, RFK Jr., are insisting that this is in fact bad for you.
Right.
And it doesn't change any of the scientific dynamic here in terms of what I think is good or true about fluoridation of our drinking supply. But he's not wrong about if you don't have the full faith of the people that you're serving, you can't do this sort of thing, can you?
That's true. I mean, what was it? Upwards of 19 states are trying to enact some version of a ban, either like make it optional or do whatever. But yes, if you lose the trust of the people, then it's kind of hard to do these sort of initiatives. And if the outcome is, worse outcomes when it comes to dental issues with kids, then that'll be the cost, right, for this lack of trust. I mean, someone else will bear that cost, the kids, the next generation. But sometimes there isn't much of an alternative, because if this is a people-led kind of system that we have, so if enough people don't trust whatever, and this disillusionment with, I had one bad experience or two bad experiences where I read this one thing, and the whole thing is now being questioned. I have no degree. A lot of these people, it's just I don't come from a scientific background. I just don't trust it anymore. I don't trust this. I hear there's money involved, and then it's kind of hard to gain somebody's trust back when it wasn't based on something concrete. It's just this feeling I just don't trust you. So
right. Whereas I'm in a position where I guarantee you that if I were if my general position is I think fluoridation of the water supply is probably fine. And it probably has more benefit than harm. And I know people are like, well, but fluoride causes IQ. Yeah, it hurts the population IQ by adding fluoride to the water supply. It's I don't know, does it? In the small,
we're all getting dumber.
Wasn't it all the
it's
lead?
True, we are all getting dumber.
Wasn't the lead causing a lot of that? Lead in the pipes and the whatnot. I thought that was.
Well, there's lead in all. That's the other thing about that is there's lead in all of our pipes. It's just that the problem is when it gets kicked free of the pipes. Most of the pipes, the water infrastructure in this country, I believe, is still in lead pipes. The problem with what happened in Flint, for example, is that there was a sudden change in the pH of the water supply, which knocked loose a bunch of the lead that was in the pipes in Flint, right? It wasn't the fact that the water supply didn't suddenly, it was the change from one lake to another or something that actually was the problem that then did not go addressed in the way that it should have. And so, yeah, I mean, the fact that there are lead pipes everywhere is not great, but the reason that we don't go and spending hundreds of billions or trillions of dollars to replace every lead pipe that carries water in this country is because it doesn't actually matter.
Right.
The lead isn't escaping from or leaching from the pipe into the water, except in rare cases. But at the same time, that I think that fluoride probably has more benefit in low dose than otherwise, and I'm perfectly happy to drink tap water all the time. I have no concerns about such things. If going to the dentist and getting a fluoride treatment twice a year has a similar impact on...
Oh, it's so great. It made my teeth less sensitive.
Go get the... If people can just go to the dentist and get the same impact, then what exactly is the harm if a local municipality is we're not going to add fluoride to our situation any longer because people are freaked out about it.
Right.
And of course, this is something that goes back forever. People have been freaking out about fluoridation in the water supply for so long that it was the main motivating plot point of the first or second greatest comedy ever made.
Mandrake.
Yes, Dad?
Have you ever seen a commie drink a glass of water?
Well, yeah, I can't say I have, Jack.
Vodka. That's what they drink, isn't it? Never water?
Well, I believe that's what they drink, Jack, yes.
On no account will a commie ever drink water, and not without good reason.
Oh, yes. I can't quite see what you're getting at, Jack.
Water. That's what I'm getting at, water. Mandrake, water is the source of all life. 7/10 of this Earth's surface is water. Why, do you realize that 70% of you is water?
Oh, Lord.
And as human beings, you and I need fresh, pure water to replenish our precious bodily fluids.
Yes.
Are you beginning to understand?
Yes.
Mandrake. Mandrake, have you never wondered why I drink only distilled water or rainwater and only pure grain alcohol?
Well, it did occur to me, Jack, yes.
Have you ever heard of a thing called fluoridation? Fluoridation of water?
Yes, I have heard of that, Jack, yes. Yes.
Well, do you know what it is?
No, I don't know what it is now.
Do you realize that fluoridation is the most monstrously conceived and dangerous communist plot we have ever had to face?
That, of course, being from Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Way back in 1964, they were already lampooning the loonies who believed that the fluoridation of our water supply was a communist plot. One of the greatest movies ever made. And the problem, as sort of evidenced by that clip there, is most of us are Peter Sellers, laughing nervously, right? The people who care the most, overwhelmingly, can talk you out of the room in terms of the studies that they've read and the things that they believe and the certainties that they have come to. And they know they are expert level in the field of the thing that they care about, right? Whether that's vaccine hesitancy or fluoridation of the water or chemtrails, they've almost certainly looked into their specific niche conspiracy theory more than you as a normie idiot could ever imagine and ever would, right? You must acknowledge, as the normie idiot who goes up to the water fountain and just drinks the city water, and who goes to the doctor and the doctor says, "Hey, you're due for these shots this year." And you're like, "All right, go ahead." You are not doing nearly as much research. You're not putting in nearly the amount of effort. You don't know nearly as much as the person that you are arguing with. And yet, you are confident in, blithely so, in just going about your day, assuming that the powers that be must have figured this shit out better than the loony chomping on the cigar and trying to cause World War III.
Right.
And it's something that I run into all of the time when you're reading about, like, go Google up, is fluoridation bad? And just, like, get through that, because you can go through the first page of the Google results and you won't get nearly as much crazy shit as you would have if you'd Googled this fucking 10 years ago, because Google is much more circumspect, I think, now than it was back then. But, like, the people who talk about the vaccine schedules and that sort of thing, they know their fucking shit, right? They've read the studies. They firmly believe these things. And I still think they're mostly wrong.
Right.
But, like, yeah. I'm operating in a relative amount of ignorance relative to that, because no matter how many studies I go and read, whether it's ones that these people are suggesting that I go and read, or ones that I Google up and find on my own, or go to CDC and find the opposing viewpoints that assures you that whatever the vaccine schedule is good, actually, at the end of the day, I'm making an assessment about the world that is largely faith-based. Right. And what bothers me is that so are they, so are the skeptics. They're less willing to acknowledge that they're making a faith-based assumption about things. But, like, they're no more expert, realistically, than I am or anybody else is. Right. And it's a funny thing, because, like, my default here is going to be, I think that RFK Jr. is probably wrong, that fluoridation is super bad for the American population, and that it's actually probably just fine.
Right.
But also my libertarian-leaning instinct says, well, if fucking 70% of Arkansas is, like, not into fluoridation of the water, then they should probably stop fluoridating their water.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if that's what they want, that's fine. I should note that the people who are fixated on these issues, they've reached a conclusion, and then they're seeking information that validates that. So it's not like they're, like, keeping an open mind. Maybe they'll think that, but they're pursuing information online that validates something that they already believe. The taking it on faith kind of that argument is true, but, like, the passage of time gives credibility to whatever these fancy farts have said about fluoride. Like, I mean, what was it? This started in 1940. Like, it's been 80 plus years. Like, if there was some sort of negative thing about it, there would be some evidence of that. And everyone. Well,
the argument to that is, except if it's, like, literally in this case the water that we're swimming in, right? Like, we're just dumber now, and we don't really realize it, because we're all.
But are we dumber then? I mean, if they do run these numbers,
I don't know. It is unfalsifiable entirely, right? I can say that had we not fluoridated the water supply, there would have been 18% more cavities, but we would have had 3 more IQ points on average across the population, right? Like, I can just fucking say that.
Yeah.
And, like, you can't prove me wrong.
Right.
Because it is, in fact, the case that, like, heavy metals in the brain or minerals in the brain that don't really belong there in those quantities are bad, right? There's not a lot of indication that, like, that buildup is actually happening in the American population, I don't believe. But it's something that is worth, I think, keeping in mind as a humility check. Right. Is a lot of the things that you assent to and that you believe about the world are faith-based in a way, because it's just so much easier, to not worry about it as much.
But also when things go sideways, like, what was that fen? There was some drug about, like, losing weight, and it was, like, fucking people up, and they just pulled it off the market, like Four Loko, whatever was. You know, there's been, like, so many different cases where something is out there, and then there's evidence showing, oh, this is bad, and then it gets yanked, right? Like, but with this, it's just like people they kind of develop an identity around believing that the world is flat. Like that, and now that's more important than whether it is indeed flat or not. Same thing with this fluoride thing. It becomes like a personality thing instead of, like, is this actually true, or are you just latching onto something to?
Right. Well, I think that less the specifics of fluoride or red dye number 40 or whatever else it is that we're going to be freaking out about next in terms of government poison, like the vaccine in the arm, right? The jab was going to give us anything from myocarditis in young men all the way up to microchips, right? Like it's a vast span of potential negative outcomes, all of which are not specific to any particular thing that they believe, but rather a collapse of institutional faith writ large, right? Like if you are of the Tucker Carlson mindset that everything that they're telling you is a lie, right? That's the thing that he says about the media all the time. Everything that they're telling you is a lie designed to make you dumber and to keep the truth from you. And once you internalize that, and now anything is possible, right? Now it doesn't matter that if the CDC is saying it is such, then you are going to be a person who says it must be the other thing. And like that can be like there can be anything can radicalize you in that way. Oftentimes it's something very small where you come to find out that something that some authority figure says is true and that should not be questioned, but you have personal experience that tells you that what that person is saying is not true or is a lie, right? And that can be the thing that collapses your worldview about the entire system.
Yeah, and I do wonder if we're all one bad experience away, like in a critical moment away from like thinking like this sort of way. I think there's something about somebody's personality that does a lot of the heavy lifting there. But bad experiences with something that is perceived as like this is institutional trust, like they know what they're doing, and then there's evidence that runs counter to that. That could be a bit disorienting, and you could be disillusioned by that. But like now you're just in this weird world where you don't believe anything, and you're also believing anything that runs counter to what the official claim is. So just because the CDC says one thing, the opposite is not necessarily true, right? The other thing could also be made up, right? So it's like you become you're actually in a worse position to not trust the institutions than you are to trust them. Right,
and it's why, despite all that you hear about, like school shootings, for example, I'm still sending my kid to school. It is an unimaginable risk in theory that I'm taking, right? Like because though it is a very small likelihood that something tragic like some lunatic pulls up to the school and starts gunning children down, the fact is if he's home, he's not going to be gunned down by a lunatic who's shooting up a school, right? Now, maybe because he's less supervised at home than he would be around 300 other kids and 70 teachers and school staff, maybe he's more at risk in some, like I'm sure the math can be fucked with to say, oh no, he's actually more physically at risk if he's at home than if he's at school, like whatever. But the bottom line is that I have to have a certain amount of faith that sort of thing is rare and simply isn't going to happen to my kid to allow them to walk out the door every day, right? There was a group chat that I'm in with some of the neighborhood moms about the start of the school year and how the kids are going to be walking to school again because they're closer now with the change of schools. But it's further than it was 5 years ago when they were just walking up the hill to the elementary school, or 3 years ago. And they have to walk past a less than desirable neighborhood, which abuts our neighborhood in order to get
where other children live.
Right, where other children, right, yeah. But where also, just as an anecdotal situation, just a couple of weeks ago, there was a shooting on I think it was July 4th. So it was some sort of domestic situation, big party, idiots in the street, and there was a I don't know what the resolution is, but like 3 or 4 people were shot. Oh, this was not celebratory gunfire for America. This was shooting at.
Who knows?
Not clear what exactly it was. I don't think it was just the wanton display of firepower because of patriotism. I doubt it. But anyway, there was a shooting relatively close to where our children will be walking to school every day. And so one of the moms was like, my own mother can't believe that I'm letting him, my son, or their son, walk to school every day next to this potentially bad neighborhood when you could just drive him to school and then you wouldn't have to worry about it. And
We all know how safe driving is.
Yeah, look here, you psycho. Like, how many children walking that path to school at any point in the last 20 years have suffered any sort of violent crime?
Right.
And the answer is almost certainly zero.
I mean, they might get beat up when they're
Bordering
nerds.
on, yes, some sort of bullying situation that happened, right? Where some other kid punched them or threw them into the bushes or something. And how many kids have gotten into car wrecks in that same time span on their way to school? I mean, just last year we had a bus get into a crash on the way to school in town here that my kid was on. You know, like, it's not that unusual for auto accidents to happen. It is wildly unusual for a child walking to or from school to be shot.
Right. This is the fear of flying thing. Like, there's something about, like, certain things, maybe the lack of control. They're, you know, with driving, they think, oh, I'm in control, even though somebody could sideswipe you. But anything where there's like a danger and it's a remote danger, but it's like you can visualize it, it just kind of seeps into your brain. Like, if you're that kind of person, like, it's hard to reason yourself out of it.
Right. But the point that I'm making here is the same thing that allows me to go to the doctor and for the doctor to say, hey, he's due for an HPV vaccine. And I've done 3 hours of research on the because I know it's coming, right? I know they're going to want to give him the HPV vaccine. So I'm Googling it up and trying to read stuff and find out, like, why do the people who freak out about the HPV vaccine freak out about the HPV vaccine? And I've read all of the things, and it's like, but at the end of the day, the same thing that allows me to have my kid walk past the shady neighborhood and then go sit
where other children live.
Right. And then look, I'm not the one making the point about the shady neighborhood.
I'm just saying.
It's the neighbor lady's grandma who's making the point about the shady neighborhood. But the same thing that allows me to let my kid get on the baseball field, even though I know if he takes a line drive off of his chest, it could literally stop his heart, right? The same thing that allows me to send him to school where he's a sitting duck for some lunatic who takes daddy's gun to school to shoot the place up is the same thing that says, while I'm sitting in the pediatrician's office, that, like, I don't know, man, go ahead. Yeah. Like, it's probably going to be fine. Like, you have to operate with some degree of faith in the collective works of humanity that we're all basically pulling in the same direction, more or less. And it's way harder now than I think that it was. I mean, to say nothing of, like, the 1950s, where we just won a fucking war, right? We're a relatively homogenous society. All the civil rights stuff. Let's just set that aside for a minute. We're all generally pulling in the same direction, right? And it's easy to have this sort of institutional trust that we almost mythologize at this point about our past. But, like, America is also founded on notions of utter distrust of the institutions and of government in particular. And, like, I think it's a hypocritical thing for the most part, because so many of us actually do go about our lives with a fundamental faith and belief that actually it all coheres, right, that actually we're all basically pulling in the same direction, and that things are basically that people are basically good and working for the betterment, or at least not for the outright harm of the majority of us. And I think, like, it's worth acknowledging that, like, just getting out of bed every day is implicitly a nod towards one's faith in the institutions around us. I don't know. Maybe that's overstated, but it's how I've sort of come to a less reactionary position about the world since I was fucking 22, right? Maybe, like, when we did this podcast in 2009, I was a bit more of a reactionary about these things. And I think the thing that I've come to is basically just something that I actually put in that blow up the Electoral College thing of mine, which is that it's better to imagine that we are all more or less operating in good faith, and that in fact, as a society, as a culture, we can do this. And to quote from my piece, quote, "We can do this should not be a hopelessly partisan position. We can do this was a primary motivation of the various, often shameful compromises that birthed this nation. If one doesn't believe, at the very least, we can do this, I cannot imagine what other meaning one has projected upon this nation, its founding documents, or its flag. When Reagan admonished, government is not the solution to our problem, government is the problem, he wasn't talking about everything. He was talking about economic policy and bureaucratic overreach. But it seems a couple of generations of conservatives have absorbed the mantra as foundational near-religious doctrine and ignored the context. Reagan, for all his faults, certainly believed that we can do this," end quote. And I think that a lot of the undoing of faith in our institutions that's happened in the years since Reagan, and certainly that was accelerated by the pandemic, is a lot of mistrust about whether or not, in fact, we can do this. And again, all I'm saying is I think it's worth acknowledging that the mere act of going about your lives is an implicit sort of thumbs up in the general direction of, oh, we can do this. And otherwise, like, what are you doing? I think I'll leave it there. You've been listening to Cast Iron Brains, a podcast with Bob and Abe. Find the show on Substack, brainiron.substack.com, where, like that asshole who said he wants to kill himself, you could sign up and send me money. Don't send that guy money. He's fucking grifting for fancy dinners all through Europe. Instead, go to brainiron.substack.com and sign up to send us money. Or just sign up for the emails. Because just by signing up and going there on a regular basis, even if you don't pay, you will find more from us, including the Billboard Hot 100 game and assorted other goodies to come. The opening and closing themes of the show were composed by Mark Gillig, tetramermusic.com, Tetramer music.com. For more from Mark. Abe, did you make it to the movies this week?
I did. I went to go see Weapons, which was a surprise hit at the box office. I actually haven't heard about the movie until maybe like 2 weeks ago, and it's an original-ish horror movie. I think it was like the #1 movie in the box office this weekend. Josh Brolin and Julia Garner, she's the one from Ozarks and some other shows. The concept is basically almost an entire classroom of 5th graders or some elementary school kids disappear, like overnight, like at 2:17 a.m. Like a lot of people have like ring cams, like the modern world, and their kids get up from their rooms and they run away, and they kind of run in this weird, like Naruto, like that weird, like I'm flying, posture thing, and
This says a horror. It sounds pretty funny.
There are some funny parts, also very like gory at parts, but the whole movie is not that. What's interesting about this movie is that there's this mystery, like what happened. So there are 18 kids, 17 of them disappear.
They kind of give it away with the title. It sounds like the children are weapons.
Right. Yes. Children are weapons. But so there are 18, I think about 18 kids, 17 of them disappear. One kid is still around, and he's saying, I don't know what happened. And then the teacher comes under suspicion. Like, how come the only kids to disappear are in your classroom? She's a new teacher. So like the neighborhood, the community is like, oh, what's up with this lady?
How come the only dogs that disappear are the ones around your apartment?
That's right, yeah, basically that. Like that would be what would happen to me. So anyways, while the mystery was kind of unfolding, the movie was very interesting. It became slightly less so once it's revealed what's happening. There's like some witchcraft going on, where
as usual,
some lady is controlling
some woman,
the children, some woman, and the story kind of plays out in a typical way. What's interesting about this is one of those movies where they do it from the vantage point of the different characters. So they'll start with the teacher's point of view of what happened.
Little Rochambeau action here.
So they just keep doing that over and over again. And there was this police officer that they did the point of view. He beat up some like crackhead, and then because to be fair, the crackhead told them that he did not have anything sharp in his pockets. He had like a needle, and the cop, once he reached in, and he thinks, oh shit, I have AIDS or something. So like he just cold cocked him, like just instinct, like fuck. And then he saw that his body cam was on, and he's like, shit, I gotta go talk to the boss, who's his father-in-law, and like, can we keep this hush hush? This didn't happen. He lets the crackhead go, and then you see the vantage point from the crackhead. And I'll say this: drugs are a very basically, if you're a drug addict, at least the way it was portrayed in this movie, it's like that's all you care about. All you care about is your next hit. Like, this guy is like rummaging through this house that has like zombies in it, and he's not aware. He's just like, oh, let's see, I can maybe sell this PS3 or whatever for $20, and I can get my next hit. Like that was my favorite. Like, follow this guy along. He had a lot of crackhead energy. Anyways, the movie, once you figure out what happened, it's pretty much a straightforward story, but it's entertaining.
This is by
enough.
the guy who made Barbarian.
Yes.
Which was another popular horror film
Dana's
from a few years
cousin.
ago.
Oh, that's somebody?
My coworker's cousin. My friend at work's cousin.
No kidding. But yeah, it's again, entertaining watch. Though you can find some faults with the second half of the
only thing I remember about Barbarian is I enjoyed the process, and then the ending left me wanting. I think the conclusion didn't live up to how much I enjoyed the beginning part of it. Is any problem there as far as, is it a satisfying conclusion?
The more you think about it, the more faults you find in the movie. So I would just say don't think about it. Just enjoy it. It's like 2 hours and change. Like I said, it's an entertaining movie. But yeah, the second half, the more you think about it, like, well, how did this happen? How was this kid able to do this? Da 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 da. It doesn't really explain some of the stuff. You kind of have to go with it. And then I watched the second episode of South Park. You mentioned earlier. It was the counselor, I think Mackey or whomever, he gets fired, like kind of like a Doge kind of like efficiency thing. Like we don't need you, your role is not needed, and so he goes to his financial advisor, and they keep referencing that this monthly nut that he needs to hit, and it's like $8,000. I don't know what sort of lifestyle this guy is leading, but he is in great need of money, and so then he becomes a recruit for the ICE agents thing, and that's where Noam comes in and whatever. And he's like arresting people and is apologizing. He's like, I need to make my nut. I'm sorry. Like, he's just like, I'm in this compromised situation. He just feels bad that he has to do this, but he has to do it in order for him to live. And I don't know if what they're getting at there, but it's very entertaining for the most. Not as good as the first episode, but it's pretty entertaining.
What did we watch, Lori?
We watched that yogurt.
We watched the first episode of the Yogurt Shop Murders, which is
the what?
It's HBO Max documentary series from the A24 people. So it's got like two top tier production house companies behind it.
It's a real bummer.
It's about these girls who were murdered in a I can't believe it's not yogurt.
I can't believe it's yogurt.
I can't believe it's yogurt. Not a TCBY, but I can't believe it's yogurt in Austin, Texas, back in like 1990,
early 90s,
2 or 3 or something like that, and apparently results in a bogus death sentence conviction. Although we haven't quite gotten that far yet, but
they found some patsy to pin it on.
Apparently, so
they always do.
The first 5 minutes of episode 1. We're following this guy who'd just gotten off of death row because of a bogus conviction on these murders, and then we hear about the backstory of the murders themselves, and it's like a real fucking bummer. These girls were, 2 of them were employees, like teenaged employees of the yogurt shop, and the other 2 were like their sister and a friend who were there helping them close up the shop at 11 o'clock on a Friday when they were executed. Each of them took a bullet to the head. One of them took 2 bullets to the head, and then their bodies and the yogurt shop were set on fire in order to hide whatever evidence there was there.
Holy
kind of worked.
Was it a money thing?
The firefighters came in and flooded the fucking place, so of course that also helps to get rid of evidence. We haven't gotten to the point where
there's only been one episode.
Only one. I think they're releasing them one at a time on Sundays, and the second one came out last night. We haven't watched it yet.
Okay.
But we haven't gotten to the point of the trial or how these people were convicted or anything. But a perfectly good
Good HBO bummer documentary.
HBO documentary. It was sold to me in the promotional materials as being, while yes, a true crime story, also sort of an examination of why true crime is problematic as a genre, or as sort of like that. There have been a few of them where it's like, did the Facebook idiots or the Reddit idiots actually produce any good police results here, or are they just sticking their noses in things where they shouldn't be?
Yeah.
So I think it's both a sort of meta investigation into true crime as a genre, in addition to being itself a true crime documentary. But I guess we'll see how that plays out.
We also watched Iron Man 2.
We watched Iron Man 2 with the children because Calvin has been harassing us to watch all of the films that lead up to the Avengers so that he can then watch the Avengers movies. And so we watched Iron Man 2, which was a perfectly fine movie as far as it goes.
I remember the first one being good. The second one was also decent.
Yeah, it's fine.
It was okay.
It looks really good.
The ending
doesn't
is
look like the dark Marvel thing.
Okay.
It's bright.
The ending is super fucking lame. Like just the final fight between Tony Stark and the big bad, who in this case was played by Mickey Rourke.
Wow.
Russian.
And it was just fucking stupid. And especially like because the ending of Iron Man, the first movie, is so fucking good, where he's in that press conference and he says, "I am Iron Man," and then the fucking Black Sabbath comes in. You know.
We also watched The Holy Grail.
Oh, nice.
We watched, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The children had never seen it before, and it was time because reflecting back on my life with my son going into 7th grade now, I realized that the friends that I made in 7th grade, specifically like Eric Crowley and Mark Amano and
shout out those guys,
Brian Murphy, a significant percentage of my dialogue with those three dudes in particular probably was just a regurgitation of the dialogue from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And like, I can't have my son going into the 7th grade not having seen that movie, which I believe I first saw with my buddy Brian at his older stepbrother's house. Like his older stepbrother had an apartment, and when we were in probably 6th grade, I think, we just were hanging out with Gary for the night, and he showed us Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I don't think I'd ever heard of it, basically, up to that point. And it was like a formative moment for me where I thought, oh, this is just the funniest thing that's ever existed. And I sort of still think that. Rewatching it, I probably haven't seen it in whole in a few years. It's just so fucking good. And you forget, if you haven't seen it in a while, how like you're 45 minutes into this movie and it's just fucking banger after banger after banger in terms of this like sketch after sketch after sketch. And really, I guess I was worried that there would be parts of it that I didn't want to sit there and watch with my 5th grader and 7th grader, right? My about to be 13 and about to be 11-year-old. But there's really just one scene that you're like a little bit awkward to be watching with your kids.
Yeah.
Which is the Castle Anthrax, when the guy goes in there and it's just a bunch of horned up young ladies who are trying to get into his pants. But other than that, like obviously,
how did that go over?
I don't know.
They didn't notice.
So much of it goes over their heads too. Like, is the good news.
Notice.
Yeah, like first the spankings and then the oral sex. And I like sort of gave side eye at my children, and they're like, they didn't even react.
They don't know. We also watched the Led Zeppelin documentary and part of the Billy Joel one.
Oh,
yeah, we watched the Led Zeppelin documentary, which I found. Did you watch that?
I think I did. Was this a multi? Oh, no, yeah, I did see it. Yes.
It was just a one part. It's
Yes.
called Becoming Led Zeppelin.
Yes.
It stops at
Yes.
Led Zeppelin 2, which suggests to me that there must be more coming, where it's instead of becoming, it's like being Led Zeppelin maybe or something is how they're going to frame the next one. But I'm sure that this was, I don't know if how much of the currently alive members of Led Zeppelin had in terms of like production credits or anything like that, but it had the feeling of being fully signed off by its subjects, and I don't know.
That's generally how it all goes. This is that Michael Jordan
I know,
fault,
but there's like 20 minutes of like worthy material where you're like, man, I'm glad that I heard that come out of John Bonham's mouth, even though he's been dead for a long time. And like John Paul Jones is obviously a very sweet man who's just like happy to be making music. And Jimmy Page is a fucking legend, and Robert Plant is like the quintessential, like, man, I sure lucked into this gig kind of front man, where he's just going to write lyrics about the Lord of the Rings, and now he's like part of the most important hard rock band that's ever existed. And like, to his credit, obviously, he's got a great fucking voice as far as the screamy parts go. But like, I don't know, I didn't get a lot out of the documentary in terms of new appreciation for Led Zeppelin, and a good 30 minutes of it is just concert footage of them.
Well, but that's nice.
No, it's fine, but like, I could also just go listen to the records if I want to listen to the records, or find live albums to listen to. And then the Billy Joel thing, I don't know what we are, maybe an hour or less into the first episode, which is like 2.5 hours long, and then there's a follow-up that's another couple of hours, I think. And I am just utterly immune to Billy Joel's charms, both as an artist and as a human being. Like, he just like, it's not my fault. It's not his fault. It's just not to my taste. Right. And like, I just don't, I recognize that he's good at what he does, but like, I cannot help but think, listening for this first hour to all of the early stuff, especially, and we only get up through like
Piano Man, basically.
Right basically after. Here and right after. But it's like, man, a lot of people have really shitty taste, and that's what makes Billy Joel popular.
My takeaway is that the 70s suck, because it's just, the whole thing is just 70s, and it's 70s. Cheesy, and it can't help it because music didn't know how else to be then.
Yeah. And like, at the same time, I am charmed by, like, okay, he's playing in front of 30,000 people at Madison Square Garden, and they're all, or at Shea Stadium, and they're all screaming along, right? They're all singing the song. And like, I can't deny that when a stadium full of people sing the chorus to a Billy Joel song,
that's one of the best things.
It just fucking rules, right? Like, it's what makes, like, we can do this is what the heart says in that moment. But also, Piano Man aside,
no, it's the only good one.
Fucking lame
and Cadillac,
music. And that's going to continue as we get later in his career. Like Uptown Girl, I think, is one of the cheesiest fucking things that's ever been written, and it's just so fucking cheesy and corny and bad. And like, I cannot wrap my head around the idea that this is great. And I know. And like, they bring Bruce Springsteen in to be like, nah, he can write the shit out of a melody. He writes a much better melody than I do.
Okay, it's cheesy.
But yeah, it fucking sounds corny as fuck.
Some people like
and part
corny,
of it, I think, is also like, I just have, because of how I grew up. Like, he's from Hicksville, Long Island. He's from where Brian lives in Long Island. Like, he's from.
Bob hates everyone he knows.
No, I know these people, and it's like, this is not to say that I cannot be charmed by that personality to some extent, but like, also, like, he's this big emo fucking baby on top of being a brash New Yorker. And it's like, you can't be both a brash New Yorker and this huge emo baby who wants to bang your best friend's wife. Like,
wants to.
Like, what are we doing here, guy?
Yeah, that was weird.
Anyway, I think we'll probably finish that, since we're still a couple of weeks away from football starting, where it will dominate everything. But maybe my feelings. Maybe I'll come around on old Billy, but not on the music, I don't think. Anything else that we watched?
I think that covers it.
I'm still trying to finish the Fall or Dodge in Hell by Neil Stephenson. It's
Oh, please don't start talking about a book, Bob. It's 10:15.
It's grinding its way towards a conclusion here, and the problem with it is that though it maintains some semblance of the characters that started the story, because they have transcended their human form and become computer programs, basically, and have some amount of their previous characterization, but essentially not really. And also, we're now hundreds of years beyond where we started in terms of the beginning of the story. It's like, we're not really doing the same thing anymore. Like, it's this sort of other thing. And it's just, I don't know. The ideas are better than the story is turning out to be. I think it's fair to say. But I have a 90 or 100 pages left, and I will plow through it because I'm committed to it at this point. But yeah, I think that's it. Abe, have you got anything else for us tonight?
Nope.
Well, I guess that's all we've got for you tonight then, and we will talk to you next time.
Later.
This cannot be. I am sworn to chastity.
Back to your bed at once.
Torment me no longer. I have seen the Grail.
There's no Grail here.
I have seen it. I have seen it. I have seen it. Oh.
Hello.
Zoot!
No, I am Zoot's identical twin sister, Dingo.
Oh, but excuse me.
Where are you going?
I seek the Grail. I have seen it here in this castle.
No. Oh, no. Bad Zoot.
What is it?
Oh, wicked, bad, naughty Zoot. She has been setting a light to our beacon, which I've just remembered is Grail-shaped. It's not the first time we've had this problem.
It's not the real Grail?
Oh, wicked, bad, naughty, evil Zoot. Oh, she is a bad person and must pay the penalty. She must pay the penalty. And here in Castle Anthrax, we have but one punishment for setting alight the Grail-shaped beacon. You must tie her down on a bed and spank her. You must spank her well, and after you have spanked her, you may deal with her as you like. And then spank me.
And spank me?
And me?
And me?
Yes, you must give us all a good spanking. And after the spanking, the oral sex.
Well, I could stay a bit longer. Together! Oh, hello.
Quick!
What?
Quick!
Why?
You're in great peril.
No, he isn't.
Silence, foul temptress!
Look, she's got a point.
Come on, we will cover your escape.
Look, I'm fine!
Come on!
Quick, together!
No, I can tackle this lot single-handed.
Yes, let him tackle a single hand.
No, together, hat. Come!
No, really, honestly, I can cope. I can handle this lot easily.
Oh, yes, let him handle it easily.
Yes. Wait, I can defeat them. There's only 150 of them.
Yes, he'll beat us easily. We haven't a chance. Shit.
We were in the nick of time. You were in great peril.
I don't think I was.
Yes, you were. You were in terrible peril.
Look, let me go back in there and face the peril.
No, it's too perilous.
Look, my duty as a knight, sample as much peril as I can.
No, we've got to find the Holy Grail. Come on.
So let me have just a little bit of peril.
No, doesn't help.
Bet you're gay.
No, I'm not.
The proceeding was created with 100% human content.